right, let's do this. Let the energies, the frequency. All right, let's put this right where it needs to be, right there. Hail, hail to all. You know who this is. This is your guy, Creative Humble, coming to you live and pre-recorded and direct. Pre-recorded, but still live, y'all. And I hope you're having a good day and a good night. And I hope all out there are safe within the governance of their own protection and the protection of life and what encompasses life. And we're going to be diving in today cosmic memory, prehistory of Earth and Man. There's a lot in that book, so we're going to be diving in it. As you can see, this shirt, that's that Sesqui Park shirt right there. Been very active today, trying to, staying fit, staying above it, just making sure that I'm still active and just working out, because every day we get a chance to just be ourselves and do something that we always wanted to do that's going to be beneficial for the mind and the body, and definitely for the soul or the spirit, as we will say. And as you can see, today is very sunny. It's Monday, I think. And also today this is log 16. Yeah, log 16. So I gotta put that out there, log 16. A lot of things is happening right now. However, as I said before, everything have its cycle. It's all within a cycle. It's a cycle. So the things that happened a few years ago will happen again. It's all a cycle. If you really study and really pay attention to the environment that you're in, you will realize that everything happened within a cycle. If they have this today, it's going to circle back again. So there's a lot of things happening, and you have to be mindful of why it's happening, why now, and what's the goal, what's the agenda behind it. It's up to you to find that out as the person that's observing your environment, this world. And as it goes on, you will learn a lot. You will know that, hey, it's not what it seems. It's never what it seems. They say most of the times it's up to like three histories, three things. We tend to look at things in a one-dimensional way, sometimes two, sometimes three. Sometimes we have to go beyond that to find that, hey, it's not what it seems, and then to see the connection within the pattern, the pattern. So, let's not take too long. We're going to dive right into this, and we're going to be discussing some stuff as well. Today I'm going to be reading from the chapter Our Atlantean Ancestors, and we're going to go in and just after we, dive in, we're going to swim out and we're going to talk a little bit. Okay. Our Atlantean ancestors differ more from present day man than he would imagine, whose knowledge is confined wholly to the world of senses. So our knowledge is so confined in the world of senses that we don't even try to go beyond it. And that is a issue. Ultimately, animals have sense. Dogs have sense. The human creatures have sense. We all have these senses. We have to push beyond them so we can see a bigger picture, see something that is more grand, a grander design. And ultimately, we will be forced to look at it one day or one night. Okay, let's continue. This difference extend not only to the external appearance, but also to the spiritual faculty. Okay? Their knowledge, their technical art, indeed, their entire civilization differ from what can be observed today. If we go back to the first period of the Atlantean humanity, we find a mental capacity quite different from ours. Why was it so different then that it is now? Is it because of the stages that we're going through? Is it because once we get something new, we tend to abandon the other faculties? Okay, let's continue. Okay. Logical reason. The power of arithmetical combining on which everything rests that is produced today. That's our environment. We have to have the arithmetical combining on everything, so that's how it is. We're totally absent among the first Atlanteans. They were saying that this was absent with them. So they had a different system that they used. We're also on it too, but I guess we have to talk about it as it goes on. On the other hand, they had a highly developed memory. Yes, very high developed memory. This memory was one of their most prominent mental faculties. For example, the Atlantean did not calculate as we do. No, they did not. By learning certain rules, which he then applied, a multiplication table was something totally unknown in the Atlantean times. I guess they had their own system. Today, nobody impressed upon his intellect that 3 times 4 is 12. They didn't care about such things. They already had these things embedded in them. In the event that he had to perform such a calculation, he could manage because he remembered identical or similar situation. He remembered how it had been on previous occasions. One need only realize that each time a new faculty develops in an organism, one old faculty loses power and acuteness. You hear that? When a new faculty develops in an organism, the old faculty loses its power and acuteness. The man of today is superior to the Atlantean in logical reasoning. That's about it. In the ability to combine. On the other hand, memory has deteriorated nowadays man thinking to concept. Yes, we can't remember things, so we have to put it in concept. We have to make sure that, hey, that's the sign over there. So instantly as we see it, it comes back. Oh, that's what that sign is. Concepts. The Atlantean thought in images. The Atlantean thought in images. When an image appeared in his soul, he remembered a great many similar images which he had already experienced. He directed his judgment accordingly. First, for this reason, all teachings at that time was different from what it became later. It was not calculated to furnish the child with rules. No, it was not. To sharpen his reason. Instead, life was presented to him in vivid images, so that later he could remember as much as possible when he had to act under particular conditions. When the child had grown and had gone out into life, for everything he had to do, he could remember something similar which had been presented to him in the course of his education. We go through this as well. He could manage best when the new situation was similar to one he had already seen. Under totally new condition, the Atlantean had to rely on experience. While in this respect, much has been spared, right? Much has been spared. Modern man, due to the fact that he is equipped with rules, He can easily apply these in those situations that are new to him. Yes, we do have formulas that helps us. The Atlantean system of education gave a ununiformity to all of life. Okay, it was basically, it gave a ununiformity to all of life. For long periods, things were done again and again in the same way. The faithful memory did not allow anything to develop that was even remotely similar to the rapidity of our present day progress. Well, that's what they're saying. Trial and error, right? Until we get it right. One did what one had always seen before. One did not invent, one remember. One remembered. He was not an authority on who had learned much, but rather he who had experienced much and therefore could remember much. In the Atlantean period, it would have been impossible for someone to decide on important matters. Well, that's what they're saying. I wonder why. Before reaching a certain age, on one had confidence only in a person who could look back upon long experience. What has been said here was not true of the initiates and their school, for they are in an advanced stage of development, so they were changing, of their period. For admission into such a school, the decisive factor is not age, but whether in his or her previous incarnation the applicant has acquired the faculty for receiving higher wisdom. The confidence placed in the initiate and their representative during the Atlantean period was not based on the richness of their personal experience, but rather on the antiquity of their wisdom. Ooh, they reaching way back. In the case of the initiate, personality ceases to have any importance. He is totally in the service of the eternal wisdom. Therefore, the characteristics featured of the particular period do not apply to him. While the power to think logically was absent among the Atlanteans, really? That's what you're saying? Especially the earlier ones. In their highly developed memory, they possessed something which gave a special character to everything they did. But with the nature of one human power, others are always connected. Memory is closer to deeper natural basis of man than reason. You hear that? Memory is closer to the deeper natural basis of man than reason. And in the connection with its other powers were developed, which were still closer to those of subordinate natural beings than our contemporary human powers. If you know what contemporary is, you know what we are. We are right here. We are the contemporary few, are the ones that's, whatever. Thus, the Atlantean could control what one calls life force. So they're saying the Atlanteans could control life force. Now, look at us now. Now we have to tap into that life force. Now we have technology and other means to help us. And we lost. Basically, that it's dormant. Those type of memories and powers are dormant in us. But let me not digress too much. As today, one extract the energy of heat from coal to transform it into motive power for our means of locomotion. The Atlanteans knew how to put the germinal energy of the organism into the service of their technology. One can form an idea of this from the following. Think of a kernel of a seed grain, right? In this, an energy lies dormant. Yeah, just think of a corn, a grain of corn or a seed, any type of seed, an orange seed, a pumpkin seed, a melon seed, right? Okay, and then you have to tap into your energy to let that seed become the plant. Okay, but let me read. In this, an energy lies dormant. This energy causes the stalk to sprout from the kernel, right? The kernel. Nature can awaken this energy that reposes in the seed. Modern man cannot do it at will. Damn, that's sad. He must bury the seed in the ground and leave the awakening to the forces of nature. Yeah, we depend on the forces of nature for a lot of things to this day. The Atlantean could do something else. He knew how one can change the energy of a pile of grain into technical power, just as modern man can change the heat energy of a pile of coal into such power. Plants were cultivated in the Atlantean period not merely for use as foodstuff, but also in order to make the energy dormant in them available to commerce and industry. Just as we have mechanism for transporting the energy dormant in coal into the energy of motion in our locomotives, so the Atlantean had the mechanism in which they, so to speak, burn plant seed, and in which the life force was transformed into the technically utilized power. The vehicles of the Atlantean, which floated a short distance above the ground, were moved in this way. These vehicles traveled at wow, let me let me just get this. These vehicles traveled at a height lower than that of the mountain ridges. Of the Atlantean periods, they had steering mechanism by the aid of which they could rise above these mountain ridges. Nice technology. Must be flying cars and all types of stuff. One must imagine that with the passage of time, all conditions on our earth have changed very much. Today, the above mentioned vehicle of the Atlanteans would be totally useless. Their usefulness depend on the fact that then the cover of air which enveloped the earth was much denser than at present. Whether in the face of current scientific beliefs, one can easily imagine such greater density of air. Okay, right? Most not occupied us here. Most of it doesn't really occupy much here. Because of this very nature, science and logical thinking can never decide what is possible or impossible. You hear that? I hope you hear that. Okay? I hope you hear that. It says science and logical thinking can never decide what is possible or impossible. Their only function is to explain what has asserted by experience and observation. The above mentioned density of air as certain for occult experience as many facts of today given by the senses can be. Equally certain, however, is the fact, perhaps even more inexplicably for contemporary physics and chemistry, that at that time the water on the whole earth was much thinner than today. Wow, the water was thinner, huh? Because of this thinness, the water could be directed by the germinal energy used by the Atlantean in their technical services that today are impossible. As a result of the increased density of water, it has been impossible to move and direct it in such a ingenious ways as once was possible. From this, it must be sufficiently clear that the civilization of the Atlantean period was radically different from ours. It will also be understood that the physical nature of the Atlanteans were quite different from that of contemporary man, you. The Atlantean took into himself water which could be used by the life force inherent in his own body in a manner quite different from that possible in today's physical body. It was due to this that the Atlanteans could consciously employ these physical powers in an entirely different way from a man of today. He had, so to speak, the means to increase the physical powers in himself when he needed them for what he was doing. In order to have an accurate conception of the Atlantean, one must know that their ideas of fatigue and depletion of force were quite different from those of present day man. They didn't get fatigue as how we think. An Atlantean settlement, as most must be evident from everything we have described, had a character that in no way resembled that of modern city. In such a settlement, everything was on the contrary, still in alliance with nature. It was still in alliance with nature. Only a vaguely similar picture is given if one should say that in the first Atlantean period, about to the middle of the third subrace, a settlement resembled a garden in which the houses were built of trees with what? With artful intertwined branches. Yeah, trees that, the branches, they are intertwined. We can still do that. We still have that today in certain tribes. However, it's very difficult because, yeah, you have to become involved in this society no matter where you are. You could be in the woods. You could be far in the hills. They're going to come and get you. You will be subjugate to this society one way or another. What the work of humans' hands created at that time grow out of nature, and man himself felt wholly related to nature. Hence, his social sense also was quite different from that of today. After all, nature is common to all man and women. What the Atlantean built upon the basis of nature, he considered to be common property. Common property. Just as men of today think it's only natural to consider as his private property. What his ingenuity, his intelligence have created for him. Our familiar with the idea that the Atlanteans were equipped with such spiritual and physical powers as have been described will also understand that in still earlier times mankind presented a picture which remind him in only a few particular of what he is accustomed to see today. Not only man, but also the surrounding nature has changed enormously. In the course of time, plant and animal forms have become different. All of the earthly nature has been subjugated to transformation. Once inhabited regions of earth have been destroyed. Others have come into existence. The ancestors of the Atlanteans live in a region which has disappeared, so they say. The main part of which laid south of contemporary Asia. They call that the land of Mu. Atlantis go by many names. The land of Mu, probably other names, probably the Typhonian names. However, probably the Pleiadians. However, these places, this is, we can just look at it as all the earth, the whole earth itself. There's other myths that Atlantis was right here by the Americas. There's other myths that talk say it was Africa, and it went through this type of changing, and the people move out, like they move from the region they were and spread out. Yeah, there's many things. In theosophical writing, they are called the Lemurians. In the theosophical writings, they're called the Lemurians. After they had passed through various stages of development, the greatest part of them declined. So they rose and they declined. Those became stunted men, whose descendant still inhabited certain part of the earth today as so-called savage tribes. Only a small part of Lemurian humanity was capable of further development from this part of the Atlantean from this part of the Atlanteans were formed. Later, something similar again took place. The greatest part of the Atlantean population, they declined, and from a small portion are descended the so-called Aryans, who comprise present day civilized humans. And if you know who they are, I don't have to say who they are. It goes into many things. Okay, we are going to read a lot about this book. We're going to be going into these sub races, whether it be the Aryans, the primal Semites, the primal Mongols, the what do you call the Toltecs. You know, we're going to be going into all of them. Yes, yes. According to the, you know, what I mean, according to the nomenclature of the science of spirit, the Lemurians, Atlanteans, and Aryans are root races of mankind. If one imagined that two such races preceded the Lemurians, that two will succeed the Aryans in the future. One obtains a total of seven. One always rises from another in the manner just indicated with respect to the Lemurians, the Atlanteans, and Aryans. Each root race has physical and mental characteristics that is quite different from those of the preceding ones. While, for example, the Atlanteans especially develop memory and everything connected with it, at the present time, it is the task of the Aryans to develop the faculty of thought and all that belongs to it. Yeah. In each root race, various stages must also be gone through. They have to go through these things, all of them. There are also seven of those. In the beginning of the period identified with the root race, its principal characteristics are in a youthful condition. Slowly they attain maturity and finally entered a decline. The population of a root race is thereby divided into seven sub-races. But one must not imagine that one sub-race immediately disappear when a new one develops. Each one may maintain itself for a long time while others are developing beside it. Thus, there are always population that shows different stages of developing life beside each other on Earth. The first subrace of the Atlanteans developed from the very advanced part of the Lemurians, who had a high evolutionary potential. The faculty of memory appeared only in the rudiments among the Lemurians, and then only in the last period of their development. One must imagine that while a Lemurian could form ideas of what he was experiencing, he could not preserve those ideas. Okay? He immediately forgot what he had represent to himself. Nevertheless, that he lived on a certain civilization, that for example he had tools, erected buildings and so forth. This he owed not to his own powers of conception, but to a mental force within him, which was instinctive. However, one must not imagine this to have been the present day instincts of animals. No, it's a different type, but one of a different kind. Theosophical writing called the first subrace of the Atlanteans that of the Ramahals. Oh, the Ramahals. And that word Ramahals is Ramahals. Ramahals. The memory of this race was primarily directed towards vivid sense impressions, colors which the eyes had seen, sounds which the ear had heard, had a long after effect in the soul. This was expressed in the fact that the Ramahals developed feelings that their Lemurian ancestors did not yet know. For example, the attachment to what has been experienced in the past is a part of those feelings. We do have a lot of attachment to the past. However, we must push on and we must develop into the new beings that we will forever be. We're gonna continue this on some other time. We don't want to dive too much, and we have to talk about this. We must know what we are and what represents us and what we represent. Okay, ultimately, as I have always said, we're always on the stage of just evolving, ascending, whatever you want to call it, transcended. We're always on the stage, a path of evolution, involution, revolution, rotation. You have to dive in, involution. So these are the things we're taking and we're mangled, we're mashed together, and we're created something. It's alive, the new creature. Whether it's frankified, whether it's something that's genetically modified. We have scientists nowadays trying to do that. Everybody gets their turn. Every civilization gets their turn. Every race of people gets their turn. It's just how it will turn out later on that determines what really happened. Either way, we're alive, so we must continue to push through, document these changes, document these evolutionary process, and tap into ourself and apply this knowledge and all of this combination of knowledge and work within ourselves, so we can just tap in and just move on to something greater. Because as time goes by, as they would say, you will start to see a lot of things and you will start to have a different understanding of a lot of things. So let me not say too much until the other time. But for now, let this ponder in your mind. And as I said, dive in within yourself. Dive in, And this is your guy, Creative Humble, coming back to you again, Just stay safe. Stay vigilant out there. Remember, don't become a victim. Don't be victimized, but realize who you are. Be strong. Be strong, all right? And until next time, I'm out. Bless, yeah? Yeah, man, big up.